Doc Talk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to Doc Talk today. We're going to have a great show. Dr. Casey Olson is going to be with us. We're going to talk about culling cattle. And we got a hat back in, Western Indiana cattle. David Stoll, thanks for sending us in. Today we're going to talk about what do you do when the cow is open. We go through the preg checking time. Is it worth the preg check? Once we do preg check, what are my options to make more money for my farm and ranch?
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against horn fly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey there, and welcome to Doc Talk. Dr. Olson.
Good to be with you, Dr. Dan.
It's always good to have Dr. Casey Olson with us. He's a ruminant nutritionist, and he is which professorship do you have?
The Lewis Professorship.
The Lewis Professorship. I forgot that. I apologize. But basically, it's a chaired professorship here at Kansas State University for a ruminant nutritionist, range nutritionist, and understanding cow nutrition, economics, and many different things. And today, before we get started, Dr. Olson, we have a cap here from the Western Indiana Cattle. This is a marketing group. David Stoll, thank you very much for sending us this cap. And these folks are putting together cow groups and marketing their calves together and do it on Superior. It's a great learning opportunity. And obviously you had some experience with that too, didn't you, back in the day?
It's a decade ago, but when small herd producers can get together and appear large, there's a lot of marketing advantages, a lot of market power that can be generated by pooling calves, by sharing resources, and developing relationships in the beef industry with feeders and with packers and things like that. It's a very intelligent approach to the cow-calf business. So
thank you to David Stoll, Western Indiana Cattle, for sending in your cap. Now, Dr. Olson, today we're going to talk about culling cows, and one of the things that you want to talk about is its importance to our income stream.
Right. You know, as cow-calf producers, cull cows are kind of our afterthought. But if you look at national figures, about 40% of gross income at a typical cow-calf operation comes from cull cow sales. And we all know where those cows are bound. They're bound for the lean trim market. We're a hamburger loving nation, and that's an important part of our industry.
You bet. And when we talk about the cull cows, you know, there can be some differences between fall and spring calving herds as far as the advantages, right, to hit different markets.
Absolutely. You know, the fall calving producer has certain natural marketing advantages that the spring calving producer doesn't enjoy, and that extends to cull cows, to the calf crop. You know, a wean calf crop, for example, that's ready to go to grass just when the grass is ready to have the cattle. And it's most of the advantages of that fall calving system have to do with marketing. And from the cull cow specific perspective, the lean trim market tends to be strongest in April, May, and June, just when you'd be
Hamburger grilling season
sure,
coming in.
hamburger grilling season, and also just when you'd be weaning those fall-born calves and doing pregnancy detection on those cows and deciding who stays and who goes. The strength of that market is such that you get about a 30 to 40% income jump on those cull cows when you compare an October market with a June market, for example.
Gotcha. So obviously, very important to the income stream. There are distinct advantages for fall calving, but there are some things we can do with the spring calvers too to make them more competitive.
Absolutely.
And we'll save that for after the commercial, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about, well, she's open. What are we going to do with her? You're watching Doc Talk. Thanks for joining us today. More with Dr. Casey Olson after these messages. Hey folks, welcome to our Cattle First Minute, sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. And today we're going to talk about clostridial vaccines. And one of the things about clostridial vaccines is many times it's called, in layman's term, blackleg or something of that nature. But when you hear someone say, I'm going to give a 7-way blackleg, that is the vaccination for clostridials. Now, all of us that are watching this show are also vaccinated for a clostridial that's very common in our environment, called Clostridial tetani, and that is tetanus. So tetanus is a clostridial vaccine that humans and cattle alike receive. Make sure that we vaccinate our calves that are going to be housed on pastures that are high with the blackleg disease with a 7-way clostridial bactrin. We also want to make sure that we utilize that bactrin when they're going into a grow yard and again at the weaning process. When we want to use clostridial tetani or tetanus vaccines is if you're going to use the technique of banding to castrate bull calves. Always use the tetanus toxoid. Clostridial vaccines have been around forever. They're one of the most effective vaccines that we have in the world, and they work really well.
It must be an inherited trait because I have never wanted to do anything other than be in the cattle business. And it's interesting as I have grandchildren now, little bitty ones. All they want to do is go to the barn, swing a rope, and be a cowboy. It's something. It's a lifestyle that we have, the way we make a living, obviously. But it's really more than that. It gives us the opportunity as a family to be able to work together and enjoy each other's company and make a living at the same time. We've been using Triangle for years, and the reason we do it has been safe and effective, and we're going to continue to do that. We'll put the cows in the chute twice a year, spring and fall. 100% of our cattle get vaccinated with Triangle.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Casey Olson, who is the Lewis Professor in Animal Science and Range Cattle Nutrition here at Kansas State University. And we're talking about cull cows. And you know, when we talk about some of the spring calvers, fall calvers, different things of that nature, kind of walk me through some of the things that we can do to, you know, okay, my cow's open.
Yes.
Now, you know, the decision, I've got to make a decision on what we're going to do.
Okay. Now, in a normal circumstance, we're probably going to diagnose pregnancy in October,
Yep.
November on those spring calving cows. And we're going to have a set of them always that come back not pregnant. And some of those cows are going to be young. We will have had substantial investment in them without an adequate payback opportunity. And if we go ahead and market those at that time of reproductive failure, we're selling into a lean trim market that's not very strong seasonally. So we have some options if we think about our marketing approach intelligently. Now, University of Nebraska did a study several years ago, Doc, that examined the feasibility of starting a fall calving herd from those reproductive failures from the spring herd, and that actually worked very well. You know, if you have the resources to support late pregnancy and lactation during the fall of the year, that makes perfect sense. But if you're a cow-calf producer like I am, and you don't have those resources, maybe starting a fall herd per se is not the option for you. And I think we have some pretty exciting choices we can make there.
Yeah, and so we have some options. Got to make a decision and move it forward. When we start to think about some of those things towards that stronger market for cull cows, you know, there are different types of markets we can feed them towards, right?
Right. And you know, if you consider at that point that you're really trying to hit just a stronger market, you know, without choosing a particular target, you've got about 8 months, okay, to wait until that strong lean trim market turns back around. And we have some options for those cows. Okay, we can create value simply by hanging on to those cows for that 8-month period of time, putting some weight on them, and waiting for that market to strengthen. The other thing that we can consider is what would be the value in taking that open spring cow and turning her into a pregnant fall calving cow for marketing. What we're doing on my operation, or the one that I manage, is we're taking our open spring cows, we're exposing them for a 45-day period in the fall. We're diagnosing pregnancy sometime in the early spring,
Yep.
And we're selling 2 sets of cull cows now from our operation. We're selling a bred cow that is going into a fall calving herd, and we're also selling the opens from that exercise into the strongest lean trim market of the year.
Well, I think that gives you options, and if you have both a fall and spring calving herd, you might be able to retain some of that money that you put into the genetics and the development.
Yes.
And then if they don't breed back, you've got them marketed and ready to go into that stronger lean trim market. Great information.
It only took 30 years to figure that out.
Can't imagine what the next 30 years is going to bring. But we're going to take 30, 40 seconds off here and go to messages.
When it comes to stopping hornflies, cattlemen love their Vet Gun. Today they love it even more because Vet Gun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin VetCaps from AgriLabs.
You spent countless hours building a strong operation. But when it comes to trichomoniasis, the odds are stacked against you. It takes just one infected bull to take down the whole herd. Damage could include open cows, lost pregnancies, and lost profits. The good news is with TrickGuard, a herd doesn't have to feel like a house of cards.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Casey Olson. We're at Kansas State University where Dr. Olson holds the Lewis Professorship of Range Cattle Nutrition, and interesting who it's named after.
Yeah, Walt Lewis and his wife Frances Lewis were Hereford breeders from Larned, Kansas, and they were very good at growing forage. They were alfalfa production pioneers here in Kansas. And two things were important to the Lewis family: their Hereford genetics and making those Hereford genetics successful on forages. And I'm really, really proud to be able to be associated with the family. And Kansas State University is fortunate for their generosity.
Yep, and you need to come in and see the bronze
That's right.
Hat that Mr. Lewis's that's in our heritage room.
That's right. It's an icon, a Kansas State icon.
It is absolutely great. So, folks, we're talking about those open cows, and so let's say I'm not going to worry about breeding them and things of that nature. I'm going to feed them. And why are some of the reasons why we feed them besides getting to that later market period?
Okay, particularly with older cows, Doc, when they fail reproductively, they do so because they're too thin. And if we take that thin cow and send her to market right away, she's not going to have a very heavy carcass. Fat color will be objectionable, be very yellow, and the quality value of that carcass is pretty low. But we know this from our early days in graduate school, Dan.
That's right.
If we take that same cull cow that's thin and we put some grain into her for as little as 60 days, we can change a variety of carcass value measures.
Yeah, I can remember, speaking of early days of my graduate school, buying some cull cows, bringing them in to feed them, and the first day having two of them die. And one of them was hardware disease, and I remember calling my dad and saying, I had two of them die, and he goes, well, why do you think they called them cull cows? And, and so you have to remember if you're collecting these animals to feed them, and you don't know their background, there could be some things that you should ought to know before you're going to invest in the feed wagon and things of that nature. But if you know these animals and you know that they're just thin, maybe you've gone through a drought, we're going to put some weight on them. Obviously, the more weight that's on them, the better muscling score they get and the more carcass quality, right, that they fit in the box?
Absolutely. We can add value just by making the carcass heavier. We can add value by changing the color of the fat and thus improving the quality designation of the carcass. And we can actually make that carcass useful for more things other than just ground beef.
Yeah, and I think that's what people, one of the things that we tend to not understand is that as that animal has more muscling, you not only get paid more per animal, you get paid more per pound because the animal has more options and better cutability.
That's right. And, where we don't typically use certain technologies with breeding cows, we can use those technologies, implants, ionophores, things like that. And a grain diet that might be as high as 60% to change that carcass value.
Absolutely. We use very aggressive implant strategies. Can even use a beta agonist on these cull cows to help marketing and increase muscling and different things to that nature. We're not worried so much about marbling score as we are in a young calf. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. We're very fortunate to have Dr. Casey Olson on this show. We're very fortunate to have him here at Kansas State University. We're going to take a few minutes here. When we come back, we're going to wrap up talking about what to do in marketing strategies or retainment strategies of cull cows.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
We work in our business every day. Let's work on our business. This is practical information brought to you by those doing it every day. No theories, no opinions, just real people with real information that do it every day. You want your people to follow you, care for them, love them, be there for them, tell them you've got their back. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about our people.
Say this is a calf that's been run through the chute a few too many times. Going through the chute stresses cattle, causing them not to eat like they should. Luckily, Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ provides proven protection against key respiratory diseases in a single shot, with just one trip through the chute. Talk to your veterinarian about Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ, and soon your calves will relax and eat like a whole different animal.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with my friend and colleague, Dr. Casey Olson. And appreciate all you do. Appreciate what you do for our students, and appreciate what you do for our industry, folks. Wealth of information here with this person. And if your kid's looking for a place to go to college and a mentor, this is one of them that I would be the first one that I'd pick. Folks, when we talk about, or Casey, when we're talking about, let's just kind of do a wrap up. Let's just talk about, because people are going to be going out, they're going to be pregging their cows here this fall. And what do I do with this open one?
Okay. You know, you fall calving producers, you don't have any problems marketing cull cows. It's the spring calving producer that has the problems. You got options. You can sell into a porn market in October or November. You can hang on to that cow and expose her for breeding in the fall and sell, either retain it, start a fall herd, or sell a portion of those cows as bred and the portion that doesn't stick as lean trim into the strongest lean trim market of the year. And if neither one of those things is appealing and you have the resources, you can, in a very short period of time, as little as 60 days, put a high grain diet and some nutrition technology in front of that cow. You can change her carcass value dramatically in a very short period of time.
And another thing we didn't mention earlier that just remember back in the days, you know, when we went to that $8 corn, it was not a time to be feeding cull cows. Sure. But when we're talking about $3 corn, now it's a different feeding those, hanging on to those animals, putting some weight on them, keeping them at least until that January or February, at least get them past the first of the year. It may not be the strongest lean trim market, but it could be a stronger one than what we have selling into in the fall.
Absolutely.
The cheaper the corn is, the better opportunity is to feed those guys.
And marketing is the hardest thing to learn, but it's the most important skill to know, I'm sure, as our friends in Indiana understand.
You bet. Well, when we come into some of these animals, you know, also, you know, we talk about low body condition score, but the other thing that people need to be aware of, if you're starting to have quite a few open cows, be working with your local veterinarian to make sure that you don't have some sort of infectious disease or some venereal disease going through your cows or something that or in your bulls to cause this.
And sometimes a slip in pregnancy percentage is subtle, and sometimes it's very dramatic. You see one of those dramatic changes, you need to get a hold of your veterinarian immediately, get some diagnostic work done.
Talk to me just a little bit, too, about the importance of preg checking.
Well, on average, producer in Kansas is going to spend about $820 a year just in cow maintenance. That amounts to about a $2.40 cost accrual every day of the year. if you're keeping a cull cow, or a non-pregnant cow for 1 day longer than necessary, you just lit $2.40 on fire.
You just paid the preg check fee.
Yes.
So get your cows preg checked, and then when you know, then you have options, things that'll make more money for you and more money for your herd. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for being on the show.
Great
Always good to have Dr. Olson here. Remember to work with your local veterinarian, get those cows preg checked. And if you want to know more about what we do at Doc Talk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at Kansas State University. Thanks for watching Doc Talk, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to doctalktv.com.
Doc Talk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.